Welcome everybody to Door 19, advice for you from two complete strangers. I'm Jamal.
I'm Lashandra.
Welcome you.
Welcome.
Last week we were talking about marriage and relationships, so we decided we're going to do kind of a segment or a series, brief series on this particular thing. Seems like it's a lot of relationship drama everywhere, so people want to know how to better that. So we decided we're going to go ahead and do that for just a little bit, a few weeks or so, I guess. We talked about a few points last week, a few keys to unraveling the drama or the problems, the things that contribute to a destructive relationship, and how to get clear what they are and start to tear them down. So we're going to go a little further in that, and we also mentioned to you that we were going to reveal a monster, the monster in the closet, one of the big contributors to destructive marriages, relationships, partnerships, or whatever. So we're going to get to that kind of like halfway through. So just tune in.
Yep. We have a lot of ground to cover, so we're going to try to condense it for you guys today, and again cover very specific points that will help in your marriage or relationship. So once again, I have paper, and I suggest that you take notes, whether it be mentally or literally take notes.
Or go back over to the video.
Yeah.
So subscribe.
So the first key that we want, and some of these aren't necessarily what we would say are keys, but we're going to uncover some of the things that you've heard many times of things that people say when they talk about ways to make a marriage work. So we're going to kind of uncover the why you would do these things, because a lot of times people may tell you the thing to do, but they won't tell you why that's a good thing to do. Yeah. So we want to cover that end of it as well today.
And again, this is from our perspective too. So
So the first one is, don't go to bed angry. We've heard that many times. You will hear that from therapists, from counselors, from other people who are in long-term committed relationships, and that they have felt that this has really been beneficial to their marriage. But we want to discuss, why is that a good thing? Why is it a good thing to not go to bed angry? So I'll pass it off to you and let you.
Well, from my perspective, you also hear this from a lot of elderly couples too. They say it a lot, but I think it has more to do with the individual state of the person than the actual relationship. When you go to bed angry, or you go to bed agitated, you kind of carry into, you want to say your dreams. Well, I'll say this, when you get to going to sleep, your mind kind of stops or slows down to thinking. So that's a good point. But you're carrying, into the next day the previous day's state. So if you went to bed angry or agitated, then what happens is you never cleared that up. You never got rid of or smoothed it over enough so that when you wake up the next morning, you have something fresh and new to think about. So when you don't do that, you carry that in. You carry the momentum of that agitation, that anger, that stress. You carry that with you into the next day's adventure, and every day brings something brand new. So you never want to have a compounded or a compounded stress going into the next day, because if it's not resolved or if it's not cleared previously, then you're going to be that much more angry. So the momentum of that anger and that stress it's almost like trying to stop a car that's rolling down a hill. Once the car just starts rolling, if you stop it, it's not going to cause you any problems. But if you try to stop that car about 3 minutes into it going down the hill, you're not going to do it. It's going to have to smash into a wall to actually stop. So that's what it's like carrying anger, or not resolving anger before you go to sleep. You're carrying the momentum of that anger into the next day, and the next day is going to bring another momentum if you don't understand how to deal with it. So that's really critical and key to understand. That's really why you don't want to do it. It's not no little lovey-dovey stuff, so to speak. It's more about you controlling the situation instead of the situation controlling you. So that's my advice.
I think that's perfectly said. So I don't have anything to add to that one.
All right.
All right, so we'll move on to the next key. The next one is spending time together. Once again, this is not anything new. It's not that you haven't heard this before about spending time together with your spouse. Especially as of lately, I would say really within the last few years, you hear so much about date night. People talk about it all the time, that you have to have a night planned with the other person so that you can have time alone, whether it's a scheduled date night or it's kind of spontaneous, whatever works best for you. But we want to again discuss, why is it good to have that time together? Why is it good for date night? And those reasons may be obvious to you, but it again is so much more than that, because not only are you able to spend the time together and to reconnect or to connect and to grow deeper in your relationship, but you also build a bond that is so important to if you want to continue on in the relationship. It's something more than just going to dinner or going to a movie, and it may not even be something that you can plan that specific. It may be something, if it's just, we go to the grocery store together a lot, and a lot of people say, why y'all do everything together? Because we like doing everything together. We enjoy each other's company, and I think the more that the more time that you spend together, the more time that you will want to spend together. And every couple's different, every situation is different. So for some, you may not want to be around the person, say as much as we are around each other, and that's fine too. As long as there is no undercover theme going on with that, because I hear a lot of people say that they don't even really like the person that they're with.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem to me. That's a huge sign that some work needs to be going on, or there's a reevaluation of your relationship with that person, period. And once again, back to spending time together, the other point in spending time together is you get to really know the person better, which in turn you find out, do you really like to be together? Because as they say, they say looks fade. They say as the years go on, things change and dynamics change. Maybe you have children, or maybe you will have children. Maybe children go off to college. Maybe jobs change, you move. But one thing that is constant is your relationship, is the true relationship that you have with the other person. So when all of the, as you said, like on all the fluff of things are gone, what you have is that core relationship, who that person really is. So that's what I'm getting at, who that person is. You get to find that out when you spend more time together. And once again, you get to evaluate if that is who you really want to spend time with in the long haul.
Yeah, and if you're in a marriage and you're not the kind of person that just jumps from one marriage to to the next one, you this is a kind of committed deal, and you feel those feelings like you don't want to be bothered or you don't want to be around the person as much. It's almost strategic, where they call us creatures of habit. So the more you spend time with somebody, the more trust builds, and then you start taking on, the person has their back. This person actually has my back, so to speak. So that starts to build a fortress from the enemy, and we're getting ready to get into what that monster, that enemy is, that destroys things. So you never can take these things for granted. It's not about doing what you don't want to do. It's all about strategic planning and strategy. You know what I mean? The object of the strategy is to be victorious in whatever it is, you're strategizing for. You know what I mean? And this is for a good relationship, a good marriage. So you're building this trust and this fortress of trust and love and respect. So when the big winds come blowing in, you pretty stable, because you've reinforced a lot of your windows, so to speak, that would have blown right in had you not reinforced them. So it's date night is a reinforcement, it's a strategy, and it's wisdom beyond wisdom. You know what I mean? So yeah.
That's really all it is. It's summed up in that way, And two, I just want to mention again, don't get caught up in thinking it has to be Friday night that you go to dinner and movie, or Saturday you go dancing, or all of these cliche date night types of things. Whatever your thing is, whatever the two of you enjoy, or you give and take and you share. One picks something that you do this week, the other picks something you do next week. And sometimes it may have to be that planned out in the beginning, especially if you're just trying to get on the roll of actually allotting that time together. And then after a point, it may not have to be that planned out. It's just kind of more, oh yeah, well, we love to do this together, so we do it. So
yeah, perfect.
Okay. I think now actually is a good time to bring in the reveal.
The monster in your closet. This monster is the ego. Some have called the ego editing God out, or edging God out. Some have said that it's the ego is a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be, or as you want to be. So what does that mean? And as far as relationships and what we're talking about here, if it's a wrong-minded attempt to perceive yourself, or to perceive things the way you want them to be, then what it is anytime the ego steps in, it's always going to try to fix things by judging, by attacking, by pointing the finger. So if you really want to change your relationships, you can't change them by blaming the other party. It always starts again with how you view things, or even understanding that we are different and we really view things differently because of how we're raised differently. So the ego tries to do away with all of that. It doesn't want to hear that. It just wants to say, no, the only way out of this, or the only way to a successful relationship, is you have to fix yourself. You have to change. You have to stop doing this. You have to stop treating me like this. You have to stop making me feel like this, when that's not the truth at all. And once you can correctly identify when the ego steps in, and maneuver the ego accordingly, push him to the side, then you'll be able to handle the relationship from the true place, or the true space, and everybody will be able to be seen, or be heard, or be understood. Even if you don't agree with your partner's decision, you can understand that, oh, they came up with this decision because this is how they understand the situation to be, instead of saying they hate me, or they don't want this relationship to work, or whatever the ego tries to make you identify the situation to be, which again is always going to be judgment, or attack, or pointing the finger, or blame, and all that kind of stuff. So this is a real monster. It is definitely a monster, because it's ugly in all its ways, because it doesn't yield to the truth of what you are. We are really great beings, you know what I'm saying? And when we can see the truth you know, when we can lay the cards out clearly and see exactly what it is going on, we can start to handle and start to arrange ourselves in a way that is less attacking to our spouse or to our, you know, our significant other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense.
You got anything to add to it?
No, I mean, I think that a good sign to just be aware of is that anytime you have a thought that rises up in you that is, as you said, pointing the blame, then that's a good moment right there to kind of evaluate and see, is this true? Is this really the best place and space that I want to be in? And is it of help to myself as well as to my spouse or not? And a lot of time the ego once again will mask itself as being helpful to you. So its job really a lot of times is to try to protect you. So thinking that it's protecting you is going to shift the blame to another person.
Right.
So, you know, your job is to just be aware of that and to work on it. And that doesn't mean that the other person is never possibly doing something that they could improve upon, or that they're always right and you're always wrong. That's not what we're saying at all. It's just that the ego will try to mask that everything is always the other person's fault, and that there's nothing that you need to do to work on. So what we're saying is the best way to help any relationship, whether it's a relationship that you're in with someone else, such as a marriage, or if it's a friendship, if it's a working relationship, a co-worker, anything in life, there's so many different aspects that the ego is going to try to pop up, you know, pop up on you to try to throw it into another field. So your job is to just be aware of it, to work on it, and to be able to help deal with it the best way that you can. And we will continue to discuss the ego probably in other segments and other videos that we do, because it is so prevalent in everybody's life and all of our lives. You know, it's nothing that you can really get away from, but you can work on it and you can learn how to deal with it.
Right. And it's, you know, it's a lot of information, it's a lot of resources that talk about the ego in particular ways. And if you want to know about some information or some resources that you could read or you can check out, then maybe will, you know, kind of expand you, maybe bring you some light in this, you know, on this ego thing, then definitely write us, email us, and we'll help you out as best as we can.
Well, once again, we've covered a lot this week, and we will continue next week in the series of marriage keys, keys to a successful marriage or relationship. And if this has been helpful to you, don't forget to share the video, share the information. Email us at door19adviceforyou@gmail.com, and just continue in your path of love and of growth and in your relationship. And also, I just want to remind you, if any of these keys that you've noticed don't line up with the type of relationship that you're in, we mentioned that last week, and we mentioned the communication last week, so please take a look at that video again. But if any of these things don't line up with the type of relationship you're in, I would highly recommend that you take a look at that relationship and see, is it something that you are willing to put in that effort, so to speak, to be with, or if it's something that you need to just cut loose and move on, because you don't want anything to drain you or pull you down as you're moving forward.
Right. And if you have any questions that you haven't heard answers for, please write in and specifically, you know, tell us what it is, or if you feel like we haven't touched on enough of what you want to hear about, then let us know that too. You know what I mean? And if we can't help you, we would definitely try to point you in a right direction, because it's all about growth and expansion and eliminating all of this unnecessary life stuff that we don't have to live. You know what I mean? We can truly live loving and good stuff, man. You know, So Door 19, advice for you. That's the number 4 and the letter U, gmail.com.
Yeah.
And tune in every Wednesday for this. Till then, thank you. Bye-bye.
See you.